Good morning, everybody. Wendy wanders the city here. Today we're going to start the day at North Avenue and Clark. We're seeing a beautiful fountain here just outside the historic museum. Chicago's Historic Museum is the building right behind us. And then if we wander down this way, we'll head towards the lakefront. We're at the lowest, the southernmost point of Lincoln Park here. This area is plastered with signs talking about Chicago's hidden secrets. And one of the reasons for that hidden secret here is that this used to be a cemetery. We've talked about that on some prior streams. Excuse me. And now it's garden space. Now when they had to reposition the cemetery in order for them to be able to grow the city. But in deference to the people that had been buried there, they did turn this into a park. Nobody wanted to really have the cemetery in their area. Very, very muggy day this morning. It's overcast. We're going to go up and I'm going to take a walk past the Lincoln statue. And again, this is a much more rare Lincoln statue than most. For those of you outside the U.S., Lincoln was, arguably one of the greatest presidents we had. He's credited with basically keeping the Union together during the Civil War and for freeing the slaves. I will tell you that he was not well loved in his time. The reason that there was a succession is because it was a very close fought presidential battle and nobody liked the winner. Or enough people didn't like the winner that they chose to secede. So here we're seeing the backside, which I don't know if you would call it the backside or the front side of the Historical Society here in Lincoln Park. Beautiful old building. We got some garden space here. Thank you, James. If you're in live, please make sure you're subscribed. If you're seeing this on the replay, tell me what city you're from. Is there a big city near you that you'd like to wander? I will tell you that next weekend I will be in Madison, Wisconsin. Not exactly as big as Chicago, but we'll look at the downtown area of Madison, Wisconsin. And I will be in Minnesota in the early weeks of July. So what's interesting about this statue is most statues of Lincoln have Lincoln sitting down. But this is a standing representation of Lincoln. Howdy, Chris. Now, one thing that is terrible, you'll see there's a hollow space there underneath his overcoat. Almost all the time, somebody is reaching up there and putting a popsicle stick. So we won't go and investigate that, but it was always one of the most favorite tricks or pranks of college students. As we look south, right, we're looking back into the city center and down this little plaza with the garden here. Remember, I'm going to consider the statuary part of Chicago's public art. Now, I do like that. You can see so much. There's so much interesting art, statue, garden, green space that Chicago has for its citizens and visitors. I'm going to walk down this little dirt path. And here we're going to come past the statue of the little girl. The statue is famous, and I think it's a replica. We'll see on the placard here, but I'm pretty sure it's a replica of a famous European statue. We've got North Avenue, which has an exit to Lakeshore Drive right here above us. And so in order to keep the two parks connected, there's a pedestrian passageway underneath. Keep the pedestrians safe. But let's go up and look at this statue real quick. And then we're going to punch out to the lakefront. So, Fountain Girl. Go ahead and close in on that for a second. I'll let you read that on your own time. And now we'll head back out to the lakefront. If you were here for the, well, when we looked at Old Town, I finished that video in the just north of this street right here in Lincoln Park by the southern end of the zoo. And if you saw the Gold Coast, this is where I would have started it. Behind these trees here is the Astor House. We might get a good shot of it as I walk over here, but I'm on the far side of the park from the Astor House. Good morning, Fuzzy Pink Handcuffs. Everybody, a round of applause for the mods. I really appreciate their help, their dedication. They're my advisors, my PR team. They make sure that we keep the chat safe. Now, I will say that I've loved all the people that have been in this chat. We're not big, but we enjoy all the beauty of the city of Chicago. And if you don't, just lie to me. Tell me you love the beauty of the city of Chicago. We're a little bit later in the morning, so usually in that 5, 6, 7 o'clock hour, you're going to see more runners. We probably will see people running. I am going to walk along the lakefront from here down to to Oak Street. Oak Street is the top of the Mag Mile. And today, I think we're going to walk down the Mag Mile and just kind of peer into some of the luxury shops that are there. Now, something that, right, we're early in the morning, that we're not going to see these luxury shops. They have large vaults. So most of the jewelry and the watches are going to be hidden from plain view. We're just too early to really get a view of their wares. But you'll see the storefronts. You'll see where they're situated. So when you have an opportunity, you know where to buy your really expensive stuff. This ramp is going to take us to an underpass that'll take us under Lakeshore Drive. So when I was younger, and this is kind of in response to Chris. Oh, and I forgot, I have some abilities here. I can tap the screen on occasion. Sorry, trying to juggle a cup of coffee and the gimbal. When I was younger, I was always a little bit worried about Chicago. You know, it was kind of considered a dangerous space. My parents moved out to the suburbs. Of white flight, which would have been prevalent in those times. I didn't agree with that. It's a good historical record to understand that white flight did take place. And what would happen is I found myself visiting the city so much, and I loved it, and I loved the idea that you could be here during the night. And I wanted to be able to take advantage of that. So probably 10 years ago, I finally decided I was going to move into the city center. And I've just really loved every moment of the time that I've been down here. There's so much walkable elements. The divvy makes it rideable. The city is much safer than we think. Yes, there are an awful lot of, you know, if you look at the newspaper on a Monday morning, you're going to see that there was anywhere from 15 to 25 bang incidents. The fortunate element is that most of those people have really bad aim. So it's scary to hear firearms go off. But I will say that they don't cause harm as much as people think they would. Here we're looking down the lakefront at the top of, that's basically Streeterville there. Now the top half of Streeterville is old money, and the old money hotels, the old money condos. Then you get a little bit into the retail and then the medical district, and finally into more of the residential and restaurant district in Streeterville. Step over here. This is Promontory Point, sorry. You may or may not see this, but there's a building out there in the middle of the lake. And that building, it's called a water crib, but that's a water intake. So the city of Chicago, this is, none of the Great Lakes are the largest freshwater lakes in the world, but the collection of the Great Lakes is the largest concentration of freshwater in the world. And so in Chicago, we get our water from this lake. You can also see there's a barge out there moving south. If you're ever in Chicago and you think, wouldn't it be fun to rent a little boat and go out by that water crib? Do not do that. You will be very quickly surrounded by military boats, as that is a security concern. Oops. I accidentally wandered into the cycling lane. So the lakefront path, you can run the lakefront, the entire 14 miles of Chicago's lakefront. It used to be a shared path, so runners and cyclists would share the same space, and that was rather risky and dangerous because, again, those vehicles move at two different, or those modes of transportation move at two different speeds. So fortunately we had a benefactor, Ken Griffith, who is the owner of Citadel. Citadel used to be a large financial firm here in Chicago, but they finally got tired of the taxes and chose to move elsewhere. I think they're down in Florida these days. I'm not positive. But he basically offered up a great deal of money so that they could pave the second path or create a divided path for cyclists and runners. A couple of weeks ago, we were in the Gold Coast, so we were about 1 block behind these large buildings that you're seeing that are facing Lakeshore Drive. Nancy, I need to bring you out here. You need to be my information docent. So these buildings are rather old, but this is really where a lot of the well-to-do or the well-heeled families of Chicago would have places. A lot of them are snowbirds, so they'll be here in the summer and then head south for the winter. Now, as we look south, let's talk about some of these buildings. The low rise that's closest to us is the Drake Hotel. The Drake Hotel was the #1 hotel to kind of come to in Chicago back in the heyday. Behind that is the Palmolive building, and that used to be where Playboy was housed before Playboy moved west. Remember, Hef started here in Chicago. The large symmetrical black tower in the back is John Hancock. And that's what I always tell people, that I have some of the most incredible useless news in the universe, or useless information in the universe. That it's called trivia for a reason. Behind the Drake, to the left of the Drake, is the Knickerbocker Hotel, which again is another old money hotel. If we look across the street from the John Hancock Tower, that tallest building with the two little turrets or parapets at the top. That is the Bloomingdale building. So that's 900 North Michigan. John Hancock is 875 North Michigan. And inside of the Bloomingdale building, it is a mall. The half to our right is all the Bloomingdale store. So there's 7 stories of Bloomingdale. By the way, it's residential above the mall. And then the front half of that, or as to our view, the left, is all kinds of other, typical malls that you'd see in, typical storefronts you'd see in a mall. In the summertime, you will see lifeguards out here, and you've got these red ladders. These red ladders are to help you if you need to escape the lake. You're tired or otherwise needed to get out of the water. Those are the ways you get out of the water. The lifeguards don't like you using those, and there are signage that says, hey, no diving, no swimming. You'll get yelled at, but nobody's going to do anything about it. The water here is very shallow. You can see we've got a beach in front of us. If you went off the wall right here, it's only 4 to 6 feet deep. The beach ahead of us is Oak Street Beach. Oak Street is, if you were a kid in Chicago, this is where all the cool kids hung out. You came down to the city and you hung out at Oak Street Beach. When the AVP tournament comes here, this is where the AVP tournament is hosted, here on Oak Street Beach. To the left of the buildings, you can see that little peninsula that juts out. That is Navy Pier. It did start out actually as a naval base in Chicago. That ships would be there. In World War II, between this and the Glenwood Station, which is a little bit north of here, this is where most of the Navy pilots were trained. They wanted to be inland from the coasts to be protected from enemy ships that might be able to fire upon the shorelines. So that's really why there's a Great Lakes Naval Station and why the Navy has a presence here in Chicago. Lake Michigan itself is not international water, but the rest of the Great Lakes are international water. We share that with Canada, or as I like to say, North Dakota. After being the naval flight training element for the Navy, it then spent a bit of time as Chicago's campus for the University of Illinois. So University of Illinois Circle is what its original name was. Now it's called University of Illinois Chicago. But that's where the University of Illinois Chicago was housed for the longest time. They have since really taken up residence mainly at Halstead and Van Buren, which is just south of Greektown. And now it's mostly a tourist attraction there. You can see the big Ferris wheel. There's a big top tent there. It's got somewhat of a carnival atmosphere right near that. There's restaurants there, Harry Carey's, Lou Malnati's. There's a hotel. There's a couple of hotels on or the pier. And at the very end is a grand ballroom. Nice. Yes. So it's going to be Wendy Wanders the Chicago and Second City Comedy all the time, right? Real quick, I'm going to jump off the path for just a second. Show you just, again, that there's murals and paintings everywhere here in Chicago. And we're seeing that again. This is, again, an underway, so the pedestrians can walk under Lakeshore Drive. through this tunnel. Something as a reminder, unless you are going to die of thirst, it is really a bad idea to drink water out of these fountains. The reason that the fountain is always running is that they're trying to make sure that the lead doesn't build up, but all of these fountains are known to have lead in them. Chicago's health department claims that it's a safe amount of lead. However, the World Health Organization will tell you that 0 is the only safe amount of lead that a human is supposed to take in. So try to bring bottled water, carry water with you if you're down here. It's not safe, in my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor, to drink out of those fountains. Early in the morning, you'll sometimes see dogs here on the beach, which, you know, it's not allowed, but nobody's going to stop you because it's just there's no people here. But we can see somebody doing yoga right now. You can see the 2 lifeguard platforms there, and one of them has the boats by it. So in the middle of the summer, and even today, there will be lifeguards in boats, and they're going to be a little bit further out, and they'll kind of, you know, hey, you can't swim past here. Now, Lake Michigan is not really a place where you see people swimming, especially not here. They'll wade, it's a place to cool off, but it's just not, you know, it can be very wavy. When the winds are blowing, it is just not really comfortable to be swimming in this part of the lake. There are a couple other bays that are much more isolated. And when I say bay, that's probably not the correct term, but, you know, more protected beaches that have either berms or docks, buildings, something to keep the water calm in that space. And we also have a little like bar and restaurant here on the beach. Yeah, James, you know what? And there actually is graffiti. I will say that you know, art is in the eye of the beholder at all times. But the ones that look more artistic, I'm definitely saying, right, that they're murals. When we did the Pilsen neighborhood, there were definitely places where there was tagging, so people were just putting their names there, and that to me is, you know, that's graffiti. Yes. Yeah, Chicago, both here, and then the next major street south is going to be Ohio Street. Now, Ohio Street is where you will see more swimming because it's inside of a breakwater, so the water stays a little bit more calm there. And Ohio Street also has a bar and restaurant on the beach itself. Now, I think those are park district city-owned, park district managed, and then privately run. So somebody will rent from the park district. We're going to go under Lakeshore Drive here. So, pro tip: if you ever need to go to the restroom, you've got restrooms right here. Public restrooms. We're now walking under the pedestrian underpass under Lakeshore Drive, and we will pop out at basically Michigan Avenue and Oak Street. Nancy, will you be up in Minnesota the second week? Ooh, I can hear the echo right now. Will you be up in Minnesota the second week in July? And if so, I'd love to share a barley soda. Actually, any of you that are share some of my other channels, the offer stands for you all. This used to be another bypass, so you could walk underneath Oak Street. That has been since closed down. So it's a ramp to nowhere right now. As I said when we were approaching here, right, you've got the Drake Hotel here and then some condos as we move further down. Now, because space is such a premium here, sorry, I'm throwing out my coffee.
So my question
If you follow me down the street to where you've got the black scaffolding on the far side of the street, that building has an interesting little driving mechanism. So when people drive there to drop somebody off, whether it's a cab or Uber or a limo, you drive in and you put yourself on a turntable and drop your customer off, and then the turntable turns the car around so that it can back out of the driveway. Now we are on Chicago's famous Mag Mile. I drink black coffee too. Sometimes you have to drink in the morning, and my coffee is my morning drink. So, as I said, Mag Mile, as we look down the street, you're seeing 900 Bloomingdale, right? Or 900 North Michigan is Bloomingdale. You've got a UPS truck here. We've got the Zenith watch across the street here. Mikimoto jewelry. As we head down past the Drake, I think that we've got Rolex on this side. If it's not Rolex, it's Omega on this side. On the far side of the street, at the bottom of Bloomingdale's, you can see the Gucci. Howdy, Eric. So we've got Gucci as one of the non-anchor stores. There's a Mont Blanc, right? So if you need an expensive writing instrument, more so than a Bic, you've got that going for you. Earlier I mentioned you've got the Knickerbocker, right? And the Millennium Knickerbocker is down here. This is the real entrance to the Drake. So it's got its exposed northern entrance, but the southern entrance is really where the front desk is at. Louis Vuitton. I don't really have need for handbags, but here you've got the handbag of Louis Vuitton. Just the signage there. Louis Voyage Vuitton. Breitling, again, a watch company. 1884 is when they've come to. But again, notice that we're at a time in the morning when none of the wares are on display yet. David Yurman, upscale jewelry. Is this Bulgari? Which I believe is watch and jewelry. You can see they're starting to set up inside. The salespeople dressed impeccably. Vacheron Constantin, again, another old Swiss watch company. And the Omega. So we're in the middle of June, so you're seeing a lot of Pride bunting and displays, lighting. couple evenings ago, I was down here and got some good pictures of Illinois Center lit up. So here we've got John Hancock Tower, right? Make everybody dizzy, afraid of heights. There's a cheesecake factory down here. There's a Starbucks down here. John Hancock is retail at the lowest levels, and then it becomes office and residential space up top. You've got 360 Chicago, and what that is it's just a high level view, right? So a top floor view of the city, and they've got the tilty floor for all of those people that like the glass bottom and to be frightened to death. Beautiful church across the street, First Presbyterian. The entire complex is the church, so you've got the church itself here, and then the rectory in the other buildings here with the courtyard. That church does hold regular Sunday services. You can also walk in anytime you want to. The next mall on our left is going to be Water Tower Place, but again, it's Water Tower Place, the mall. And just after we pass this mall, you'll understand where it gets its name from. This may not surprise all of you, but I have never been an American Girl person, but there is the American Girl doll store here. I love, so the diversity of dolls is something that I love, that you would have not seen this when I was a child, right? The Water Tower Place has the faux marble facing. This, again, is about 7 floors of shopping, retail shopping. Escalators all the way up. They do have elevators as well. Yes, a real church, Susan. Unlike that of the other channel. So we've talking about, you know what, I'm going to speak about something else first, right? I've told you before, these brown signs are honorary signs, and this is Dutchy Carey. So Harry Carey was the broadcaster of both the White Sox, but in the later years, the Cubs, and just an icon of Chicago sportscasting. And Dutchy Carey was his wife. There is a Harry Carey restaurant here in the Water Tower Place, and I think that's why you're seeing that. But we've spoken about this before, that there was the Great Fire in Chicago, and it burned down almost every building in Chicago. And you know, there are claims that only 2 buildings survived, which is not exactly true, but let's say it makes the story sound better. This and the building across the street are the water towers. So these are the water towers that survived the Great Chicago Fire. And the way that these would work is that these are pumping stations, right? So in order to get the pressure, the water would be pumped up to the top, and then you would be able to create the pressure so that we could then spray water on the buildings that were around here. There was a small museum inside of this, the water house on that side of the street. Behind this is the downtown campus of Loyola. We're walking down, this will be Chicago Street that we pass. This is a neat hotel. You can see just above the tree line that large window dining room. It's a beautiful view. You can see all the way out to the lake from there. Now from Chicago south, we do start much more into the medical district to our left, and it remains retail to our right. Just behind here is Chicago's Modern Museum of Art. So not the Museum of Art that we're used to. I'm sorry, Contemporary Museum of Art is what we have right behind us to our left. See, we've got a Nordstrom's down here. Yeah, I love how many of these older buildings with the stone or masonry fronts have survived. We do have, steel and glass girders all over the place in the city, but these old buildings, it's like they tell stories, in my opinion. You've got the beautiful neon sign of Ralph's Coffee. Let me let this bus get by. So across the street inside the Ralph Lauren, they've got a little cafe out front, Ralph's Coffee. And it's got the 1950s style neon sign there. Howdy, Jen. Thanks for coming in. Let me, okay, across the street now we've got Tiffany's. Just to be a sexist male, I will say that every female that I've ever known says that the best thing to get a girlfriend is anything that comes in a Tiffany's box. I do like spoiling my wife with little trinkets from there. You've got the Saks Fifth Avenue. About a block in, you've got Jake Melcher, and that was kind of the go-to place for journalists here in the city. Billy Goats is underneath the Tribune. That's also a go-to for the journalists, but Melcher was the next one where you would have the high-profile interviews. So the journalists would come in there along with the movie star or the well-to-do persons. For you candy lovers, we've got It's Sugar. There is an unhoused person outside of that, and her sign says, "I have diabetes," which I feel like it's a sad element, but rather ironic that you'd be in front of a candy store with your diabetes sign. So again, we're not going to see any of the watches, but I've been told that this is a famous watch brand. Fast. So this is the Allerton Hotel. This has the tip-top bar upstairs, another rooftop type bar. That's another thing that I really enjoy here in Chicago. There's plenty of rooftop bars that you can go to, have a cocktail, and just enjoy the lights of the city or the views that you get from that perspective. Yeah. I'll bet it's not a lot of intersection of people that have been to both Nebraska and Japan. So coming up on the right is one of the marquee stores for Starbucks. It is the Reserve Roastery. You can see it there on the corner. I'll get past this UPS truck real quick first. So you can see the 4 floors of, and they've got a little bit of a rooftop element on top as well. Something very interesting about this Starbucks, any Starbucks coffee that you've ever had at another Starbucks, you cannot get in this place. It's only roast on site, and there's a little bit of a bakery as well that's got some very nice bougie bakery elements, and they'll do some craft cocktails in there as well. But you're not going to get your Verdana or your Pike in that location. Yeah, Japan is a tough flight. So we've got the Nike store here, and whenever Nike's doing new shoes, this is really packed sidewalk because those are usually limited items that come out of there. Nike's Run Chicago. If you are in Chicago, I think it's Wednesday mornings that you can have the fun run that leaves the Chicago Nike here, leaves from. And again, we're seeing the roastery over here. Wonder what that red hand means. Now, I will say that I do cross against the light, but I usually have situational awareness on that. Ferragamos. Swarovskis. This is an interesting building. It stands out, at least, I'll say. Right? So this is, I think it's Burberry. And I think that while it's all in black, it's kind of the Burberry plaid design as you look up through the trees here. Yeah, I can see the beige, red, black, and white Burberry bag there. Now we're down to Ontario. So this section of the loop is the Great Lake names. So you've got Huron, Erie, Superior, Ontario. The next street is Ohio, so it just stays kind of with that Midwestern firm. There are plantings all along, so there's landscaping on both sides of the street. I'm not sure if you'll see the flowers across the street quite as prominently. James, that sounds awesome. I would someday love to do one of those like Viking type river tours. Or if you're in England, right, the narrow boats, rent a narrow boat and take the tour. Here we've kind of got an old Federalist style building. You've got the big faux columns out in front here, paying homage to the Federalist style. Day of the Dead, right? La Catrina. Across the street, we've got Under Armour. The Chicago Marriott is here. And then next to the Chicago Marriott is actually a block up from that is Lightbridge. And Northbridge, sorry, is another indoor mall. And again, in the city, the malls are vertical, right? Where you've got the suburban spots where, you know, maybe it's only one or two. Yes. There, you know what? There might be a Holiday Inn Express in the city center, but I do know, and there is a Holiday Inn here. I just don't know if there's a Holiday Inn Express here in the city. The EV is upstairs. It's a neat, I like that restaurant, and it's got a nice view of the city. Got a Men's Warehouse on the other side. Again, you're seeing Nordstrom and Northbridge, and again, this is that vertical mall that I was speaking to. I think it's 5 floors tall. The entrance is here, and it's basically over the top of a street, but the real mall is this building here. That's where the mall itself is at. This is just kind of a neat street. So it's, at this point, you're at Grand Avenue, and the street's going underneath us. So the street now, from this point forward in the city, the streets won't really intersect. You have the opportunity to go under Michigan Avenue, because Michigan Avenue is hard to get across in the height of the day with the busyness. But you've got Stan's and La Briola down here. I think that Stan's recently, no, La Briola recently bought the franchise for Stan's Donuts here in Chicago. More mural, right? And I'm going to say that that looks a lot better than most graffiti I've seen. Folks, and again, I'm not anti this either, but I'm going to say that the gentleman here is going to hand you a bracelet, and you're going to think, oh, what a generous thing. This altruistic Eastern religion is handing me this bracelet. And then right after they give you the bracelet, they're going to ask you for the money. Sort of like when the street kids give you their cassette tape, and then you think it's for free, and then right after you get the cassette tape, it's like, oh, that'll be $20. So just beware of that. Here we've got the Hotel Intercontinental. Again, you're usually well-heeled when you're staying at this location. And we are soon going to approach the river. Michael Jordan's Steakhouse. This used to be out at Gino's out on Clark Street. Got an ambulance coming down the street real quick. If he stops, if he doesn't stop, I'll go ahead and mute. Yeah, the Intercontinentals are 5 stars. Now, again, this is now Illinois Street, and Illinois Street, again, is going underneath us. So if we walk over there, we can take stairs down to Illinois Street, and the same thing here. This next building is the Tribune Tower, and one of its unique appeals is that built into its building are bricks, blocks, stones from other places around the world. If we look here, right, the Prairie du Chien old trading post. So the little block in the center of the camera there is from another building, but they built it into this building. Mark Twain's Injun Joe Cave. Kentucky's Mammoth Cave. Pennsylvania's Independence Hall. And by the way, that was starred in National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, but it also happens to be where the Liberty Bell's at. So there's some history as well as some movie nostalgia to that. West Virginia, John Brown's Fort, Harper's Ferry. So this would have been the start of the Civil War, basically. Battle of Yorktown, Nelson's house, darn near the end of the Civil War. I do not know who Elijah Lovejoy is, but this is out of Maine, and Elijah Lovejoy's Princeton University. But the whole building, and I just always liked that interesting, intriguing element of this building, right? That it's got elements. So you've got St. Peter's Cathedral. This is cool, the Great Pyramid. So Angkor Wat, right, is really where the earliest civilizations on Asia's subcontinent there, with Cambodia and Thailand and such. So here you're seeing a sign that says down to Navy Pier, and I'll show you the walkway. If you were to walk down these stairs, again, there's a street that goes underneath Michigan Avenue, and cars are traveling on that as well. And if we were to go to the right out of our frame, we would walk to Navy Pier, which is on the lakefront. This building right here, at one point in my life, I worked in that building. And this is the building where Tommy Lee Jones was the FBI boss in, not The Fugitive, but the, which was the one, A Hard Target Search? But this was where his headquarters was in that. Oh wait, we're gonna go back and I get to learn stuff. So this was Elijah Lovejoy. Thank you for that, Nance. I'm a big fan of the free speeches and the free presses. Nance, I'm going to need you to co-host soon enough. Nathan Hale. Early American military. Again, we've still, oh, you know what? I want to get a shot of that too. There's an eyewear van out here in front of the Tribune building. But the Gothic front to the Tribune building, it's just beautiful how ornate that is, in my opinion. And by the way, my opinion counts on this channel. And across the street, right, we've got the Wrigley building. The Wrigley Gum Empire, Wrigley Field, which is where the Cubs play, is named after that. Oh, this is more fun. A building, or a brick from the Alamo in Texas. And then Comiskey Park, which I still call it Comiskey Park, but that is not the name of the park anymore. Earlier, you heard me talk about Harry Carey, who was the Cubs broadcaster. Now, this is Jack Brickhouse, and he also was a sports broadcaster for both teams as well. You can see there at the bottom, hey, hey! That was his kind of big element if somebody would hit a home run or had a great play. An Illinois native. And now we're kind of looking to the river. So this is where Michigan Avenue meets the river. And there's a little bit of a bend in the river here. And you're seeing a lot of different architecture here, right? You've got the Wrigley building. You can't really see it that well right here, but the very thin black building, and it's got a little gold element at the top of it. Let's see, I don't know how to best explain this. There is the shiny silver building on the right-hand side of the street, just behind that. And that's supposed to represent the top of a champagne bottle. The building is in the center screen right now that has the broad shoulders at the bottom and then the thinner element that goes up to the top and has a dome at its third stage. The architect of that building, in trade for the architecture, he basically then said, I want my office to be in that top dome. So for the rest of his life, he was in that top dome as his office. That was his reward for helping architect that building. We've got a little market going on here. Both jewelry and apparel as well as farmers market. Here we've got Apple's marquee store on Michigan Avenue. If you look at the roof of this, sorry, I'm going to back up a bit. We'll walk back towards the Tribune building and the Tribune Tower. You can see a little bit of curvature to the top of that building. If you've ever had the MacBook Pro, that's the lid of a Mac laptop. That's what that's representing there. We'll head over the bridge. Sorry, I'm playing my phone just a bit here. This is a beautiful relief, and it's mostly kind of the beginnings of Chicago. I'm going to stop for just a second. So first we've got Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable. He's kind of considered the European founder of Chicago. Now again, Native Americans would have known that Chicago existed for the longest time, but he created a trading post here. Something interesting about him is that he was French, right? So the French and the British were both here at approximately the same time. But he was a black man, and he is still known as the founder of Chicago. So at that point in time, there was a much greater emphasis on meritocracy, right? That the color of his skin didn't make a difference. He was somebody who went out on his own, tried to find himself a niche in this world, and he's basically the founder of Chicago. And then we've got an homage to the founders of Chicago. So you're seeing here, again, Native Americans, and then there's two prominent white men in the middle. And those white men are Father Marquette and Joliet. And so Joliet is a city southwest of Chicago and named after him. But Marquette and Joliet, they basically discovered is the wrong term. They were the first people to map out the Mississippi River from its source near here. Well, it starts in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or just north of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then comes down through the middle of the country, and they work their way all the way down to New Orleans at that point in time. So here we're looking towards, the next street here is going to be Columbus, and then Lakeshore Drive, and then you're finally at the lake where you've got the locks. You're seeing all the tour boats here. They'll be getting their tickets down in that area, and then any one of those tour boats is going to do an architectural tour following the river into the city. Another view of the Wrigley Building as we leave. Got some interesting, right? You've got the top of the building there in the middle, which has that Greek Parthenon type structure at the top, which is an office building. The building next to it, to its right, and it's got that little zigzag of windows through it, that's all residential. You've got the Marina City, which is the corn cobs just behind here. You've got Trump Tower. Again, the second tallest building maybe it's the second tallest all concrete building in Chicago, in North America right now. There's all kinds of different ways to classify buildings, and if you classify it one way, I'm the tallest, and if not, then there's 6 others that are taller. But and what I'm going to do is I am going to walk along the river. I've talked about the river before. We're going to head down to the river. And the way that the Chicago River is designed now, the Chicago River used to be a filthy river. That it was just riddled with pollution. People would always throw, whether it was sewage going in there or trash going in there. There was almost nothing living in that river for the longest time. You can see so Chicago again has layers of streets. If you look forward, you can see there's a street here, but there's also a street underneath that as well, and then the street above it. This bridge has 2 levels of traffic. This is the Michigan Avenue DeSable Bridge. Looking back across to the Apple Store. So I'm going to say 20 years ago, Chicago kind of got serious about cleaning up this river and using it as a tourist attraction rather than the garbage dump or cesspool that it was. So as we come down here, what they did is they built out, this is a sign that's kind of giving you some information about how we've had the return of an awful lot of wildlife. Let me see if I can, my gimbal's not letting me keep that straight. Yes, he was born like a brick house too. Well played, James. As we go down this way, there's going to be a couple of outdoor bars and things like you can play Bago and you can play Jenga at the tabletop. Just a beautiful outdoor area. The way that this river is designed now is that between each bridge or street, they call it a room. And in each of those rooms, there's usually some feature. All of the rooms are on the south side of the river. The north side does not have the same river walk. Something that you're going to see interesting here. So this is just below the Tribune building, and it's Wendella Boat Rides. You see the Wendella boat approaching. This is a water taxi where this is where these people are going to get on their boat. Now, 2 things. It might be a tourist boat, but it also might be just a boat to the train station. So there are 2 different types of boats to pick up right there. This looks like they're going to get on the tour boat. Here we've got the McCormick Bridge House, and this is a museum.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You can see that there's a little presentation going on with the docent. Point out a couple more things, right? So you can see that there's the windows, it looks like there, and there's a wall. That wall is a supporting wall, but behind the wall is the road, Lower Wacker Drive. You can see that the marketplace is just now opening. There's, again, a couple of restaurants down here. You've got the beautiful stone and masonry stairwell that takes you up along the bridge tower here. And this is a bridge house. One of the reasons that that exists is that these bridges are all movable. If you look in the middle of this bridge, you've got those 2 little red lights. That is basically the middle of this. And when a boat comes through, boats have the right of way on rivers. So while they did build these roads need to create movable bridges because boats have to be able to pass underneath. Something that's always enjoyable is in the spring and in the fall when the sailboats come into their harbors. they'll have 20 boats at a time coming underneath these bridges. So they'll all pool up in the room, and then they'll wait until the bridge goes up, and they'll come through. Here we've got, this looks like a Coast Guard. Yep. So that does say, the bottom of that did say USCG, so U.S. Coast Guard, heading down the river. This is nice. I'm going to turn you vertical for just a moment. Again, just a little map of all of the neighborhoods of. These neighborhoods, again, we've talked about this before. They change names, they migrate. The makeup of the neighborhood changes over time. There was a time where Boys Town, when it was gentrified, it was a gay stronghold of people that just flocked to that neighborhood. They felt comfortable being among like-minded people. It is no longer quite as monotone in regards to being an all-male boys' town anymore, but that's how that started. Andersonville today is the female version of that, but that's only been in the last 10 years that we've seen that change. Again, we're seeing the back of the Tribune building, the American Medical building. I'm sorry, the dental building. The black building here is the American Medical building. The two corncobs next to it is Marina Tower, the most expensive place to park your boat in Chicago. Here you've got O'Brien's restaurant and bar. See people definitely getting their exercise along here. I will tell you that as a runner, I tend to do this only early in the morning. I don't like to have to navigate around the people that are walking that much. You're interruptive to them, they're interruptive to you. So the Langham Chicago and the AMA Plaza. So Trump used to be, that plot of land used to be the IBM building. So IBM had a big presence here in downtown Chicago. Now, something that always confused me about the building that's directly in front of us, it's got the naming rights from Salesforce. Salesforce does not have an office in that building. It is a residential building. Here we've got the Vietnam veteran, here, Veterans Memorial in Chicago. As I had mentioned earlier, right, that there is the little marina that's underneath Marina. It's not Marina City, it's Marina Towers. Again, if you're in the replay, let me know what city you're from. Also, let us know what neighborhoods of Chicago would you like to see? What features, what buildings? This week I was fortunate, one of my friends asked me to go out on a sailboat, so we saw a very brief shot of the skyline from out on the lake. These places on the weekends and at night, they're just packed, right? This is City Winery, right? We just saw O'Brien, City Winery. I think there's Top Hat or Tip Hat is one of the places that's here. And it's just a very nice, relaxing place. Come have a glass of wine with somebody you want to share some time with. Sit here and take in the river, take in the boats that are traveling down the river. This is intriguing to me. The name of this yacht club is Jefferson Beach. I always think of beaches having sand. This will give you kind of a legend of. So I'll let us sit here for a bit. I'll take a picture of it with my other phone and we'll post that on the community page. I'm going to guess that sign is slightly out of date. Here you can see that, right, the docent with the red microphone. They're the ones that are kind of going to give you the fake information like I do, and I'm teasing. They're very intelligent about what they're doing. They've been, most of them have been doing this for quite some time. As we come further down, right, we're seeing some upscale seafood and steak houses over here on the north side. And then, oh, it's Tiny Tap. That was one of the other locations. I'm going to guess that they have coffee here in the morning. While on vacation, I'm not opposed to the day drinkers. It's not overly common to have a bunch of day drinkers here. In the weekend, we do. At this next intersection, I am going to go ahead and bring us to a close. I really appreciate everybody being here. If you have ideas, thoughts, concerns, please leave comments. More than happy to listen to ways that we can improve this. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you want to hear. Again, thank you so much for the mods, Nance, Fuzzy, really appreciate it. And I will say, until we see again, enjoy your day. Thank you all.